I'm gonna take a roll call vote. Theo Knoll,
Here.
Bill Spalding,
Here.
myself, Matthew Lowry's here. Susan Odd is here. Hello, Susan.
Hello.
So I'm gonna move to approval of the minutes. The minutes for June 25th, 2024 are pretty minimal, so I don't think anyone's gonna have an issue with us, the other two members having an issue with us. So do I hear a motion to approve the June 25th, 2024 minutes?
So moved.
All right, seconded.
All right, thank you. All right, item 3. I see Attorney McGrail is on here. Clyde Court update. Brian, if you could give us a brief update of what's happening out there, appreciate it.
Happy to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Brian McGrail here on behalf of 107 Prospect LLC. John Cullen is here with me in case the board has any questions of John. He's the developer on this project. The subdivision is pretty much complete. There's a couple of outstanding items that I'll get into. All of the lots have been sold. John's in the process of finishing some things up. Specifically, we had an as-built plan, and I'm going to share that if I can, because there's a couple of issues that we're working on that are relevant to the update.
Yeah, Attorney McGrail, you should be able to share.
Great, thank you. So we were here.
Oh, not showing the share yet.
Yep, thank you. I just got to rotate it.
Yep, that works.
Thank you. So we were here, we were contemplating doing this in, I think, in the winter time, and the board might recall when we did the as-built plan, there were a couple of issues that popped up. And since then, we've had meetings with the town engineers on site, and we have a path of resolution for those items that are in progress, and I'd like to highlight those for the board. The first is, let me see if I can blow this up here. This is a wall issue right here. Right now, the wall is currently extends out and it's within the right of way. And we met on site and we agreed the proper way to deal with that is we're going to take it out of the right of way, just so there's no disputes in the future between the town and the lot owner. And we're going to curve it in and taper it in. So John's in the process of getting that work. You'll note on the on this plan, remove and relocate portion of wall in the right of way. And the second issue that came up was there was on this rain garden out front was whether or not the correct elevations were there, and we think we have to do some work in there to do some regrading. And there's a condition on the decision that there were 2 PVC monitoring pipes in rain garden 1. And basically we have to do measurements, have to be taken. The town engineer wanted taken a year after that the pond was basically installed to show that the drainage is working in here the way it should, and to kind of balance it with the work that we're going to do to make sure that it has the right, for lack of a better way of saying it, a formula. So when we met back out there before the spring with the town engineers, they asked us to do some readings at periodic rain events, which we've done, and we've submitted those to the town engineer, Bill Renault. He got those today. So he'll be working with Jack Sullivan, our engineer, to specify the work that needs to be done in that area. And then we'll complete that work to his satisfaction. And that should close out the issues as far as the project goes. The other thing that the board might recall, we hired a landscape architect about replacing the arborvitaes that are in this area near Anita Laughlin's lot with a couple of species of trees. And I have the landscape plan from that meeting that I'll share. That should refresh your memory. You see it? So the board might recall that in this area here, on the lot, there's arborvitaes that are planted. And when we met out there, our landscape architect said that that species is not going to survive because of the shade and the tree conditions around it. So we came up with the idea, and this was satisfactory to Miss Laughlin, I believe, on the site visit, to replace them with a Norway maple, Acer rubrum, a red maple, and then a smooth black haw. So we're in the process. In order to do this, we've got to modify our restrictive covenant that deals with this, and we've got to modify our homeowners association. So we're going to be in the process of trying to work with the property owners now that have bought the lots. We see no reason why they won't want to do this, because if they don't do this, they're going to be replacing arborvitaes like every year, because their obligation, the homeowners within the subdivision are responsible for maintaining those arborvitaes. So we're in the process of working that through, and we will report back to the board on that. As far as we have a passbook, you might recall, we converted our surety from the tri-party agreement to a passbook. That has all been set up with Wakefield Cooperative Bank. The money is being held. We are not looking for any reduction in surety at this time. There's no sense in wasting everybody's time doing that, because we're so close to finishing the subdivision. And the timing on the tri-party, the passbook agreement, we just update you on that for completion. So our current passbook agreement says that everything shall be done by October 1, 2024. I think we keep it there, John. John, you're on. I mean, you want this all closed out before the winter, so that timing is probably right. Does that make sense?
That works for us, yes.
Yeah, so we're not looking for an
That's good.
extension at this point. We want to get this thing done. And the best time to do the work in that rain garden is going to be, coming up as soon as the heat goes away. And we're teed up to do that because the town engineer is reviewing everything now.
All right, anything else need to be done out there?
No, no.
I don't recall seeing monuments set out there.
Oh, yes. Well, that might need to be done, Matt. Point well taken. I need to confirm that with Paul Pinocchio. John, do you know if Paul has done that yet? The monuments on the subdivision?
No, it's on his list of things to do, though. That's
Yeah,
correct.
Thank you, Matt. I'm making a note of that.
Because I know there was an as-built plan submitted, but it's an incomplete as-built plan until that's done, so.
Yep.
uh,
You're
That's
right.
correct. Yes, absolutely.
And there's one other thing too, and you'll recall this, board members, there's a condition that says there shall be informational signage posted in each rain garden at all times, identifying each rain garden as a protected area and referencing that the specific maintenance protocol is required. The type and size of these signs shall be approved by the board prior to installation. So there was some debate when we talked about this before between the board members. We had proposed, I'll show you what we proposed, and I think the board kind of thought this might have been a little bit over the top, but it's certainly up to you to decide. So this is what we had presented. Was going to be a 2 foot by 2 foot sign.
Yeah, I think I was one of the ones that said it might be a little bit overkill.
I think so.
I was thinking a smaller informational sign towards, I guess, facing Clyde Court that says it's a protected area, no dumping or something, and then maybe some additional smaller signs around that just said, protected area. I don't know if we want to have something 2 foot by 2 foot up there.
Too big. Yeah,
Yeah.
too big, Matt. Yeah, I agree.
We don't want
It's gonna take away, John, I mean, my suggestion, just to start the discussion will be something that's decorative, that's gonna kind of, when you're walking, you'll notice it, but you don't want it to be like, a political lawn sign that's just gonna be take away from the rain garden in the neighborhood.
Right. So something along the lines, rain garden protected area, no dumping in this area.
something like that. I know they have them up around Market Basket
Oh,
in Reading. If
I'll go
you,
over there.
they have posts all over the place, and I do work in Lexington. They have signs there. They have specifically designed for that. So it's something that's out there. It's nothing that we really need to reinvent the wheel on. The big thing is just making sure that landscapers and maintenance people and homeowners know not to be dumping snow and leaves in there. So, the more the informational sign is for people that live there and perhaps are working out there. I don't think you're gonna have issues, people coming off of Prospect Street and from across the street and dumping their leaves or their butters, so.
No.
I think, John, we're gonna have to get something like, like a PVC type material, kind of decorative, but small, but something that's gonna withstand the weather, because this thing's gonna be out there, in the winter and, and it's gonna have to be, kind of something solid that's not gonna get, bowled away.
Yeah, we could probably use some kind of a composite AZEC material.
Yeah. I mean, this, maybe we talk to like Sardella Sign or somebody that could kind of design it.
Okay, sure.
So we'll get the board, maybe we'll get the board a couple of different options to look at on this.
Okay, that sounds good.
Theo, you had your hand up, you had a question?
Yeah, no, that was gonna be my question, like what's the lifespan of the sign? What is the expectation for the signage? I mean, are we talking 2 years, 5 years? What are we?
Well, the AZEC
10
material
years.
is a composite plastic material. It should last at least minimum 20 years. I've had it on my house for 20 years.
Okay,
It's corner boards.
got it.
Maybe what we do is,
And is it part of the homeowners association to maintain the signs? And,
yes,
oh, it is, okay,
yeah, it's part of the decision. So, that has to be there and they have to comply with it. So, I would think too, John, that we probably wanna, if you're gonna get them made, get more than one made. So they have them if it has to be replaced.
Yeah, good point.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's gonna be cheap to get them done,
Yep.
if you get 5 of them made and one disappears, they just pop another one up versus, buying one and it disappears, then what do we do?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Good point.
thank you, Brian.
So that's it. That's all we have, Mr. Chair. We're happy to answer any other questions that the board might have.
All right, I don't have any questions. Bill, you have a
I
question?
do. Thanks for the recap. And I was curious with the revision and changes to the HOA, does that need to come back to our board for review? and
Yeah.
approval?
Yeah, there's a reservation for us to amend it, it's kind of, I gotta kind of sort through this because there's a reservation when we sold the lots, we reserved the right to amend the decision. So
Okay.
we reserve the right to come back and amend our decision with the board. And the buyers assented to that. It's actually right on the face of their deeds. That they assented and consented to it as required under Mass General Laws, Chapter 41. So, there's an argument, and it's certainly a strong position that since the HOA and the restrictive covenant are specifically conditions of the decision, that we could do it unilaterally.
Okay.
We really don't want to do that. We want to kind of work cooperatively with everybody and let people know what's going on. So, but yeah, I think the modification would have to come back to you for approval once it's done, Mr. Spalding.
Okay, and I'm curious about that process where if the owners have already signed an HOA, they're part of it, will they also need to be at the meeting?
Well, I think what we would do is, if we determine that we need their assent,
Mhm.
that we would have them at least sign something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as a board member, I would feel better if full acknowledgement from the current owners that have signed the HOA that they have acknowledged the updates, and whether they're here in person to speak or nod their heads, or whether you're representing them, that's fine.
Yeah, I think that's a solid position, and I agree with it. It just it avoids confusion and debate later.
Uh, One last question, and this is maybe more for Mr. Cullen, and this is a really well done project, as we've discussed, and minimal impact, and we know the quality is there. And have any other neighbors reached out to either you or Attorney McGrail to share their opinions or complain of water runoff or anything else as we were concerned about during the review of this project?
Nobody has reached out to me at all.
Okay.
No, actually, the neighbor next door, Jason, Bob, I can't think of the gentleman's last name. He mentioned that he is not getting any water in his basement as a result of the culvert that we put in there for him.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I think as you face a subdivision, the town engineer mentioned that the neighbor to the left had some concerns with drainage, and
Mhm.
and that's going to be a focus of the town engineer in his final review of what we're going to do with the rain garden elevations, because that he wanted to take that into account. Because you remember that, John, that
Yes,
that Bill Renault
That's right.
mentioned that on the site visit, that the neighbor, as you're facing from Prospect Street to the left of the pond, had some concerns in that they were having some more water issues. So that's a focus of the town engineer. He knows about it. He actually walked the site. He walked to the back of their lot. So he's well aware, and I think they've been in touch with him.
yes, that's correct. And that's why we are raising that berm over on that side of the property to increase the capacity there. And we had a real test last year too. We had so much rain.
Yeah, it's been a tough year for water issues. You see it all over the place, so it may or may not be from anything in this development, but I'm glad that you're working with them, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it was good that we had this opportunity instead of postponing it for another year to resolve the problem now.
Yep. All right. Sounds good. All right. Thank you. Thank
We'll
you.
be back.
Hey,
We'll be
Matt,
back.
I've got one other question, and this is just as a learning opportunity. Was there anything that could have been done in advance to maybe anticipate this, or are we learning that we need to do berm plus X to be ahead of these kinds of things in the future, or anything like that? And to be very, very fair, like I'm really a novice in all of this, so it's a good opportunity to learn.
No, it's a good question. So one of the things we encountered was there's a little ditch that goes over under Sheffield Road. And there's a pipe there, and that pipe has a grate on it, and that grate was all clogged up. So consequently, we went over there and cleared that grate off, which relieved the water. So that was part of the problem. And Bill Renault was aware of that. When we walked over there, he could see how it was all cleared out.
All right.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think this was like a textbook project. I mean, some of the conditions that your board put on this project worked out just the way you wanted them to. As far as like the preservation of the trees, you know, that restriction, no clear cutting and leaving it up to the homeowners. I mean, it really, the project came out great. And I think a lot of it's attributable to the time that you spent in really looking at it and walking the site, because you really, you wanted to maintain that buffer around the perimeter, and it really has been maintained nicely.
Good to hear.
Helpful.
All right, so we will see you sometime in the fall for hopefully wrapping this up.
Hopefully, that's the goal.
Sounds good. Thank you,
Right.
gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Item 4 is Lovis Ave. Attorney McGrail, you're on for that also.
I am, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Attorney Brian McGrail, representing R&W Lovis Ave LLC. With me tonight is Warren Tolman, who's the manager of the LLC. This subdivision it started slow, but it's proceeding nicely at this point. I think I know the town engineer sent some correspondence. He reviewed, currently, let me take a step back. We have a passbook agreement here for a total amount of $140,000 that's in place. We're not looking for any release of that surety because this subdivision's proceeding pretty well also. So Bill did not do kind of a deep dive on itemization, but he acknowledged to me, and I think he acknowledged to the board in an email. Were you able, did you see that email? I don't know if he maybe sent it to Mr. Hogan.
I did not see it.
Okay, so I'm gonna share it. I think it will be helpful to the board. May. He copied me on it. And I think he might have copied, we just got it late. It came in at 5:30. So. He sent it to Mr. Hogan.
Oh, yeah, he did send it to me and
Yeah, so I'll share it on the screen just so you can kind of see it. I know you're looking for an update on the Lovis Ave extension tonight for the applicant. The surety for the project was reduced to 140 in 2021. The estimate, the attached this email, that was the 140. Several of the items on the list have been completed by the applicant since we issued the memo. As you know, this is a pretty unique situation as the board approved an A&R subdivision on an adjacent parcel, which is not our parcel, that's the parcel leading into us, with an agreement with that owner that the existing Lovis Ave travelway be improved. He says the board should have required a definitive subdivision plan for the improvements on that area. I don't know if I agree with him on that, but nevertheless. And I was not involved in that, by the way. But in any event, due to the uniqueness of the applicant situation, I believe the board can use its discretion on the release of a single lot if it so chooses. I am supportive of the release of a single lot in this case. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. And I'll get to that. I'll get to that issue in a minute on the release of a single lot. There has been significant progress on the 140. Mr. Tolman is not looking for a reduction in that. It's not worth the time and effort to do that at this point, because there is more work that needs to be done out there. There's also a condition on this. Well, I'm going to read the condition that is applicable, I guess, now to what Mr. Renault is referring to. It says, and this refers to when Mr. Caruso is trustee of the Bonnie Avenue Realty Trust, who owns the adjacent parcel. It says, our condition is Caruso, pursuant to an agreement with the board dated October 9, 2018, is required to make certain improvements to Lovis Avenue. The area of Lovis Avenue to be improved by Caruso pursuant to the Caruso agreement will provide access to the subdivision. Thus, the applicant that is being asked shall not apply for or obtain the certificate of occupancy for the dwellings constructed on lots 1 through 3 on the plan until the improvements to Lovis Ave is delineated in the Caruso agreement are completed. So we acknowledge that, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Because there is one other key element to the neighbors' concerns on this project. There was a particular neighborhood involvement that wanted some buffer and landscaping installed. So there was a condition in your decision that says prior to the release of surety, the applicant shall professionally install arborvitae's on the abutters property as shown on sheet 6 of the plan, only if the abutter allows the installation to occur. And the maintenance and replacement of the arborvitae shall be the responsibility of the abutter. Installation shall be done to the satisfaction of the board, and the board may withhold release of surety until the board is satisfied, which you'll get to later when you close this out if you want to inspect it. We don't need that now. And then it says, prior to the release of surety, the applicant shall install shrubs, small trees, and ground cover on lot 3 as shown on the plan. No maintenance and a replacement is required. So just as to show the board, my client has been cooperative with the neighbors in this regard. We reached out to Mr. Tedisco, who was very involved with the project during the permitting phase. And I have an email from him that I received today that I'll forward to you, Mr. Lowry, for the board's record. So he sent this to me very early this morning. John's up and at him early, 4:48. It's an email. It's addressed to the planning board, RE 14 Lovis Ave extension. Dear members of the planning board, I'm writing to you concerning the development of 14 Ave extension, which is currently under agreement. What he's referring to is we have one of the lots that's under agreement to be sold, which I'll get to. Mr. Warren Tolman has informed me that several outstanding items such as road work and landscaping, the road work is the A&R plan work, need to be completed before the town of Wakefield can issue a certificate of occupancy. It's my understanding that Mr. Tolman seeks to delay these tasks until the sale of the second home. As an abutter, I have had numerous dealings with Mr. Tolman. A crucial stipulation of this project was the planting of large arborvitae's bordering 68 Forest Street. As a landscape professional, my expertise in this area prompted my involvement, which he respectfully granted. The trees were installed last November and they are thriving. I can confidently attest to Mr. Tolman's commitment to fulfilling his obligations. I believe that any items he is requesting to delay it for just cause and will be honored. Mr. Tolman has consistently demonstrated his dedication to honoring all contractual obligations. In light of this, I respectfully urge the planning board to consider granting a certificate of occupancy with stipulations, allowing the necessary flexibility to complete the outstanding items in a manner that ensures the best possible outcome for our community. Thank you for consideration, John Tedisco, 66 Forest Street. So that gets us to this issue on the lot. R&W is under agreement to sell lot 3. The house is completed. It's scheduled to close in a couple of weeks. It's critical to R&W from a financial perspective to get this house sold because it's going to fund money for more work to complete the subdivision. So we're respectfully asking the board to consider issuing a correspondence to the building inspector to release lot 3 from that requirement of not being able to obtain a certificate of occupancy while retaining obviously lot 1 and 2. It would be helpful for my client. There's access in, and whether it's adequate, I was up there today. I think it certainly is. There's other people living up there right at the end of the street, but that is an issue for the building inspector and for the fire department, etc. But from your perspective, we would request that you consider releasing that lot so that it can be sold to the homeowner buyer within a couple of weeks, and that way it'll provide more funding for the project. And I say that in consideration of Mr. Renault's statement that we've made significant progress on the items on the passbook agreement. We're not asking for a reduction of the passbook agreement at this time, so there'll be more money to deal with any shortfalls. And also based on the correspondence from the abutter that R&W has done nothing but work cooperatively with the neighbors, and they anticipate continuing to do so. Once you discuss that, then I'll get into the timing on where we stand on completion and where the passbook is.
Okay, yeah, Brian, you and I had a conversation earlier where you discussed this with me, and since that time, I first of all, I'm in agreement that releasing this lot would be a benefit to moving this project forward in the long run. Having a house not sold doesn't help anyone out, doesn't help the town out. I do have a couple concerns though. Obviously, people are gonna be living down there. They're gonna have trash services. I don't, and I drove up there on my way home tonight. It's a tough road to get down. Are you expecting a garbage truck to be going down there picking up garbage, or what's your thought on that?
I think that's a really good question. And I think what I would suggest we do, we'll correspond with Mr. Conway, the director of DPW, on his ability to do that. He might require him to bring the barrels up to the end, or if he just doesn't want to do that, Warren, we might have to provide private trash pickup for these people until they can be accommodated.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you to the board, Mr. Chairman, for your time tonight. I hadn't thought of that either, frankly, and we do have a dumpster at the other site, which obviously we would accommodate the folks. I haven't had a conversation with them. I'm meeting with them on Thursday to talk about what their plans are vis-a-vis moving in and the like, subject to the board's approval and the obtaining of a CO. So we would figure it out, and if necessary, get someone to pay for a couple months. We don't anticipate this going beyond a couple months, beyond where we are right now to get the road done. I tried to get the abutter, Mr. Caruso, to do it as the board anticipated, and he's just not at a point where he wants to do it because he doesn't need it right now, and he's going to be going over it with trucks. So he basically said, I'm not going to do it anytime soon. So it's fallen on me, unfortunately. So if I have to do it, and I do have to do it, I will do it. But I just wasn't ready to do it in time for this closing. So if we need to get private trash in there, subject to Brian's call with Mr. Conway, we'll do that.
All right, I mean, I know there's another house up there. Obviously, there's some services being provided. I'm not sure how that's working out. And then the other issue would be if this goes long enough, and I know it wasn't really an issue last year, but if it does snow again around here, I don't think the DPW should be sending snowplows down there at this point because of the condition of that road. I don't know, again, how they're handling it now. But that's also something to be looked at, and I think it should be taken into consideration if we do release this.
Yeah, my hope would be to have the road done certainly before any snowstorms are coming. Please, God. My interests are completely aligned with the towns and getting the road done, getting the second unit sold and moving forward. So.
Yeah, that's all our hopes, but obviously conditions arise where things don't get done. So I just wanted to bring those issues up. So
Yeah, we'll deal with Joe Conway on that.
Okay.
I think I've had something, well, I know from Clyde Court, there was a period of time that John Cullen, who's just left, we had a private contractor that had to plow the road. So, if we don't, Warren, we're gonna have to deal with that. I mean, you're gonna have to plow for construction anyways, because your contractors are gonna be getting in there working on the two remaining houses.
Yeah, last year, because of the lack of snow, we didn't have to, but you're right. We can't anticipate a winter like that every winter.
Yeah, I think the trash is a really good point. I don't think a dumpster works, Warren, because they can't be putting food product in the dumpster.
That's true. Yeah, we can get a private service.
I'll work Joe Conway on it, and hopefully we can work something out. And if not, we'll just deal with private contractor until the town can do it.
Yep, I know you bring up the DPW, but they know what they can handle and not handle. They don't want to risk equipment up there. So yeah, working out with them, that would be good.
Really good points.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Does anyone else have any comments and questions before we decide if we want to move forward with this? Bill?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do. So just to understand too, lot 3, and I haven't been up there in a bit, probably maybe since April. Is it the section of road as it crosses over from Lotus and Bon Air into Lovis that is the issue?
Pretty small section.
Yeah. That's the
It's
part
not-
that's just been unpaved and
Yeah.
for a while, right?
Yeah, it's just
Okay,
that it's
I just
not.
wanted to make sure there wasn't anything, because that's that house on the left.
Yes,
Yeah, okay,
yeah, the
okay.
new house, yeah, like kind of right in front of there and a little bit further away as you go from our subdivision.
Right, and it's still paved down to the cul-de-sac that swings off to the right
Yes,
with the lots.
that's our road.
Yes,
Yeah.
understood. Okay. Um,
Not
Between
not
Grill,
the final pavement, Bill. That's just kind of a.
understood, yeah. So only because we've run into this before, and no offense to you, Mr. Tolman, we've had a contractor up on Line Road create a temporary road that just wasn't up to standards. It was like 2 inches of asphalt with no curbing on top of ungraded subsoil and conditions. And I know, Matt, you probably remember that. I just want to make sure if there is, and Mr. Tolman, if you are putting that road in and doing the work, that, I mean, what's the process? Previously, we had the town engineer, I believe, go up with us and review and walk through. Is that something, Matt, that you think we should do again?
Unfortunately, this is an agreement that was put in place with an A&R lot. So
Yeah.
I don't know how much, we can dictate what's gonna go on there with the road, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I just don't know.
Right. So I guess, Mr. Tolman, if you don't mind, I know you're doing this work that you shouldn't have to do, and bringing it up to the same level as the current road that goes into the subdivision that you've constructed. Is that what you're looking for a level of the road surface?
Yes, so what Mr. Caruso said, Mr. Spalding, is if I were to put down a binder on the road, he thought that would make the most sense because he was gonna have heavy trucks in
Okay,
and on the demolishing. He's got a lot of rock busting to be done, and then he would finish it down the road.
okay,
Now, obviously, that's subject to your purview with him and me, frankly. But
Yeah.
that was what I was under the impression would make sense.
This is,
And I should just say as an aside, this is not my area of expertise in your road construction in any fashion, so.
well, I'm just sharing this because that is, as Matt had alluded to, and I thought this might come up, Mr. Spalding. When the board entered the agreement with Mr. Caruso, there's specifications on what that road is gonna be.
Mhm.
So it's gonna be 4-inch dense grade road base, 2-inch by 2-inch binder course, and then 1.5-inch top course.
right. So I just
Pretty,
want to make sure
pretty good result. I mean, and if at the end of the day, Warren ends up having to do it, he's gonna have to meet that spec.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what we ran into before is the 4-inch dense gravel road base wasn't done. And the 2-inch binder course, or maybe just the top course was done, and that road fell apart. So if that 4-inch dense grade, the base isn't done, and the binder goes on, and then later on the top course goes on, it's just not gonna last. So it would just be, I just want to make sure.
I think what happened with that one, Mr. Spalding, was it was a little bit different because I think that person did work on the road in an effort to get an A&R plan signed.
Yes, that's
So
correct.
they kind of did it the other way around. And then when your board went out there, it was like, you're like, this isn't good enough because it's falling apart. So we
Right.
don't want to sign the A&R plan because this isn't gonna last.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same case. I mean, we were lied to pretty much to our faces in a board meeting, so that was a little different. But yeah, I have full trust in this, and especially with Matt and you having a discussion, and I feel comfortable with releasing lot 3 to expedite the completion of the work.
All right, and tonight, we're just we're just looking at the issue of releasing one lot. Again, we still have all the surety in place. We still have full control of the subdivision, so, we're not deciding on the roadway at this point. One of the differences here with this portion of the road is there's absolutely no organic matter up there, so it all is base up there. It's rock and it's been gravel for years, so that's one good thing going with this one. The one down on Line Road, they had literally paved over basically organic matter and weeds
Yeah.
grew through there, so. Theo, do you have any comments or questions before we entertain motion?
So, pardon me, it's a little bit more just a sort of background history. Looking at Google Earth, I can see the big rock pile. I can see the incomplete road, and I'm very, very much supportive of granting relief to sell the one house. Which is the house that's being sold? And like, so I understand that Mr. Tolman, as the trust, has final responsibility to complete the road for his
Actually,
portion.
Well, no, he
No.
doesn't, but one of the conditions was in order for us to release that, if this roadway wasn't completed yet, he may be on the hook for doing that. So this is where we're into the back and forth. He's not really responsible for that section of the roadway. Caruso is, but because of basically delays in Caruso's construction, it's moved this project ahead for completion. So we're just trying to work through that issue at this point.
All right. Okay. So at some point, Caruso's, and this is at some point, Caruso's making a final road for whatever Caruso's responsible for.
He was supposed to do that, correct? Whether
Okay.
in the end it's him doing it or splitting the cost or something, either way, there's gonna be some kind of adequate roadway in there for this
Yeah.
subdivision before we do a final release on it. So,
Okay.
Yeah, and I will represent to the board, and Mr. Spalding's point is well taken as well, that, the standards that Brian put up there. I mean, I don't want to put a road in that's going to deteriorate in 18 months either. So, it makes sense to me that when I do it, if I have to do it, and frankly, I probably will have to do it, I'll do it in the manner that makes sense so that it isn't dug up in 18 months.
Yeah.
And just bite the bullet, frankly.
I would love to learn separately outside of this why Caruso is behind schedule and maybe perhaps why you're on schedule or ahead, or but that's neither here nor there with this issue. So I'm obviously in support of this partial release.
Thank you.
all right, and then we're not gonna bring this up yet. There's some other issues out there on this roadway that I actually had discussed a few years ago. As you're heading down there, there's a tree that was not really identified on the existing conditions plan. It was left, it was filled, and now it's completely dead, so that's gonna have to be removed. But again, it's not really need to be part of the discussion tonight. I just want to let you know that we will be, I will be following up on that. I brought that up a while ago, so.
Yep.
So, I would like to entertain a motion from someone to release. Brian, how do we want to word this?
I think what it would be is to release lot 3 from the condition from the requirement in condition number 17 of the decision.
Do we need a date on that?
The planning board decision is dated September 25, 2020.
All right, I'll make a motion to release lot number 3 from the planning board's decision from, what was the date again?
A decision dated September 25, 2020, condition number 17,
Condition, okay.
to allow a certificate of occupancy to be applied for and obtained from the building department.
Susan, do you have enough of that? would you mind reading it?
Yeah,
You talking to me, Mrs. Spalding?
No, I was talking to Susan.
Motion to release. Require, the decision dated, the planning board's decision dated September 25th, 2020, conditions number 17 to allow for an occupancy permit. Then what, Brian?
To be applied for and obtained for lot 3 in the subdivision,
Occupancy permit to be applied for and what?
and obtained from the building department for lot 3. It is lot 3, right, Warren?
That's correct.
Okay,
I'm just I want to,
be applied for and obtained from the building inspector.
for lot 3 from the building inspector.
I'm gonna just, Matt, what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna double check here. Because Matt, you know how sometimes the land court does different lot numbers?
Was this land court?
Yep,
It was, okay.
yep, so just bear with me for a second, I'm just gonna bring it up, make sure they didn't change this number of this lot.
So it's already been registered with land court?
Yep,
Huh,
Mm.
okay.
Matt, while we're waiting for Brian, could you tell me where that dead tree is?
Yeah, as you enter your part of the subdivision,
Yes,
it's on your left, basically, if you head straight. It's a large tree, you literally cannot miss it. It's
okay,
probably a 32-inch oak that is full of vines now, but it's clearly dead. And one of the issues was the runoff slope on the side of the road was never adequate. It's kind of steep over there. So again, there's going to need to be looked at a little bit once that, once we get to that. And it's probably, it's probably going to mean not just cutting the tree down, but removing the stump. It's unfortunately not going to be easy, but if it's not done right, that road's going to continue to deteriorate, and that's not a good situation. Potentially not going to be a good situation in years. So,
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
bear with me, almost there. GatherCon, Matt, you know him. So this is the land court plan. It's on record in Cambridge. So yeah, we're lot 3, Warren, back here, right?
correct.
Yes, yep,
Okay. Yes, I knew they changed a couple of the numbers because they gave the road a number, Matt. So this is
Yep.
not lot 2 became lot 6, but lot 3 stayed lot 3.
All right. And yeah, this is I think this will be your one. Give me, I hope you're not gonna come back for the next one without some progress, so.
that's the plan. Thank you.
All right,
Understood. So then the other thing, just a quick discussion, just to kind of tidy this up with the board. The passbook agreement on this has expired. It just never got extended. So I don't know, what I would suggest that we have a discussion and put a new date on to just extend it, just to just for the board and for the applicant not to have an expired, passbook agreement.
Do we need to vote on Bill's motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, we do, thank you.
Apologies. I think that's important. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's ironic that I'm asking since I tend to mush things together. I'll second Bill's motion.
All right. All right, we have a motion made by Bill, seconded by Theo, roll call vote. Bill,
Yes.
Theo,
Yes.
and myself, yes, so, motion passes, 3-0 with the 3
Roll call. vote.
attending members.
And if I could,
And then the
Mr. Chair,
second
send
is-
an send, it's been voted on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could, send an email to the building inspector tomorrow and copy you and Samantha. And then you could just confirm with a reply.
Sure thing, and if if you need a
I don't think-
document signed, do you think you would, or,
I think he'll be fine with that, just something for his file that he can print out.
okay, yep, that's fine.
Great.
All right, so, we'll see you, when do you think next time we will see you here?
Well, I wanna get to the passbook agreement because, it had a date of completion of December 24, 2022. So I think we should do a modification of that and pick a date, that the board is willing to extend or we think we need, and then, just to kind of keep this up to date.
Well, let's put it this way, when do you expect to be
Yeah.
fully built out?
What do you think, Warren? Time frame?
Well, the second house, obviously this year, October, end of October, but at the latest, and then the third lot will be, into next year, so, probably,
Once we release the roadway, you can drag on with that third lot, to your heart's content, if you feel like paying for it and not, so, we're more concerned with just getting the roadway, adequate and released, so,
yeah, so that'll be this year, Mr. Chairman.
okay,
We can
Uh,
take it in steps, and that, and that way we'll come back to revisit if we need more time, so I don't think we need to go.
all right. Why don't you put, July 1st, 2025, just to give us plenty of extra time?
That makes sense. So,
Okay.
so I'll prepare a, modification of that and send it to you and Samantha.
All right,
What, July, what did you say, Mr. Chair?
July 1st,
Okay.
2025.
Okay.
All right, I think we're all set with this unless anyone else has any comments or questions.
Thank you very much.
All right,
I'll
thank you.
cooperate.
All right, item number 5, bylaw review committee update. Since Kevin's not here, I think we're going to pass on this issue or this item. And move on to item number 6, letter review support of open space plan. Let me get back to that. So Theo, you had resent a copy of that out.
Yeah, I sent it again last night.
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
Like-
Do we want to pull it up, or does anyone here have any comments or questions on the content of that?
I had drafted it to be signed by Jim, but I think I should just sort of reformat it to be a memo from the planning board to the Conservation Commission and to Samantha, so that we can just send it along.
When does this need to be sent out?
I think it needs to be sent out tonight or today, right? Because, yeah, Samantha.
Yeah, their meeting is coming up. I believe it's next week on the 15th, I want to say. I want to double
15th.
check. Yeah, I
Yep.
believe it's 15th. So they need to have a finalized letter from us from this particular hearing.
Okay. Do you want to reformat it, Theo, so it is at least signed by somebody? If you want to put my name as co-chair on behalf of the planning board.
Okay. Sure.
All right. And I don't have any other comments or edits to it. I don't know, Bill, do you have any?
Nope, not at all.
Okay. And I hadn't heard anything from Jim or Kevin, so we can assume that they're satisfied with it. So Theo, if you want to make those edits and send me a copy, I can sign it and then send it off.
Okay.
I can do that tonight.
Got it. Okay. All right.
All right, okay.
All right.
And then item number 7, the planning board letter to the traffic advisory committee.
Yeah. So, knowing that a big issue of contention that was brought to our attention around MBTA communities was a lot of traffic issues that in some ways were germane to 3A and other ways were really outside of 3A. People were complaining about volume of traffic, lack of traffic calming, particularly as cars are sort of cutting through the west side during commuting hours, sometimes in-town commuters, but also a lot of out-of-town commuters passing through. There was also a discussion around lack of an excessive amount of street parking, resulting in narrowing of streets and lack of enforcement of parking rules. It seemed like it would be useful for us to communicate these concerns up to the traffic advisory committee and or the subcommittee of town council who's working on picking up the baton with 3A. This was my first draft of trying to codify those comments, put them in writing. It's also, yeah, so that's it. I can share my screen and we can sort of edit or talk about the language, or if y'all have any questions or comments, we can, I can add it in separately and we can come back to it.
Well, one of my initial questions was, if this is meant to be sent to the traffic advisory committee, does someone need to be there to receive any comments and to elaborate on concerns, or are you looking for them to maybe have a forum or session on overall traffic issues? I'm just not sure on what the next steps would be if this were to be sent to the traffic advisory committee. What would they, what would they do?
Well, don't they have some authority to advocate for additional enforcement? Or I would even think, particularly since traffic is going to come up again as 3A is getting rediscussed, them being more able to address some of these concerns, or say we're working with the town to address these sort of separately outside of this. I think that would be beneficial.
So basically it'd be a letter to them to encourage them to look at these issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, should we be sending it to them and town council, or, I mean, I think,
I would suggest, I believe, I'm on their site now on the Wakefield page, and it looks like they meet possibly the second Friday of each month at 8:30 a.m. Just in the pattern of April 5th, May 10th, June 14th. So it's either yeah, I think it looks like the first or second Friday. So they might be meeting this Friday, although I don't see an agenda item up here yet on their site. But Lieutenant Anderson is the chairman. So I believe the letter would be addressed to Lieutenant Anderson. And I do suggest copying Steve Mayo, who's on this board as well as Joe Conway, Bill Renault, and then to the town council chair.
all right,
That's just my suggestion, which is
I like
Mr.
this
McLean.
suggestion.
I think that's probably the right address to Lieutenant Anderson,
Yeah,
and then with the
So-
CC.
McLean, Mayo, McLean, and someone else.
Steve, Joe Conway, DPW. I think, I mean, maybe add Sharon, just because Steve's executive assistant type role. I think, although she's not listed here. Yeah, I would just Steve, Joe, Bill, but addressed to Lieutenant Anderson. And if you do go to the Wakefield Mass site under Traffic Advisory Committee, all their emails are right there. They're actually highlighted, the four of them, where you can grab their emails.
Okay,
Well, this letter ends with, we look forward to discussing these and other concerns with the TAC. So are you looking potentially for us to have a more, interaction as a board, or are you, again, what's the direction of this? What would be the expected outcome by sending this?
I guess I can phrase it, should you have any additional, any questions, we would be, happy to discuss this with you further at a planning board meeting or through written correspondence.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to hear what Jim thinks because of his involvement, as well as you, Matt, but
yeah,
with the MBTA communities. If you don't know, the subcommittee will be meeting on Thursday at 7 p.m. And that's Chair McLean, Council Dombrowski, and Vincent, I believe.
Yep.
Right.
Is
And
it
that's at
7 p.m. or-
WCAT at 7 p.m. Let me double check on the site. I think that's what, I got an email about it.
Is it, I thought it was, Samantha, do you know? I thought it was 6 p.m. and it was in town hall.
So,
For what? I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm,
no, this is town council. This is meeting.
for the subcommittee.
Yep, 40A subcommittee. It's town
Yes, it's at
administrative conference
Thursday.
room. It is at 6 p.m. You're correct.
Mhm.
On
On Thursday,
July
this
3rd.
Thursday.
Yeah, July 11th. And the agenda is call to order, discussion of timeline, schedule moving forward, items not anticipated, and adjournment. I'm wondering if instead of the letter going to the traffic advisory committee, that we could be present. I know I have a conflict for that evening. It's possible I could have made it like at 7, but not 6. But if one of us could be there to share this and see, and almost put it to them that this was such an important question that was reoccurring, that we would like the subcommittee to review with the traffic advisory committee. Does that sound like a better course of action, where this subcommittee is now planning the timeline and reviewing where the 40A discussion is going?
Are you asking me?
No, just the board.
Yeah.
And you,
Okay.
Sam.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Just as I mean, you're more than welcome to pass on anything, whether you're in person or as a letter, to the subcommittee. just as a kind of a general thing. I'm happy to pass along whatever. I will be coordinating and heading up that subcommittee
Awesome.
meeting on Thursday.
I did not know that. That's good to hear. I don't know, again, the direction, I feel like we should not address the traffic advisory committee with this letter, but address the subcommittee with this letter to have an actionable item for them to contact and coordinate with the traffic advisory committee.
You can also CC another board.
True.
Okay.
You can always give them a copy of the letter, whether it's a letter or an email, whatever format you choose, you can still CC somebody on that. You would just want to make sure
Yeah.
it's noted at the bottom. If you do a hard copy letter, just make sure it's noted at the bottom, kind of near where the SIG block is typically.
Sure.
Sometimes it's put up in the address, just to note that it's also passed along to another board or entity or individual or department or whatever.
My concern with that would be, and this is why I was thinking it should go to the subcommittee, is that I want somebody to be the responsible person or group subcommittee that's doing the action, and not just, well, here you go, traffic advisory committee that meets once a month. This is something I would like you to respond to or be aware of.
Yeah, you can also send it to the subcommittee and CC traffic advisory, so they're just aware of what you're commenting on. I
Okay.
wasn't trying to say you have to do it one way or another. Just if you want to pass it along to multiple entities, to make sure that everybody is aware too, that you're discussing this, that it feels important to you. Those are normal things. I mean, to be CCing somebody or sending it out to more than one entity.
Okay.
And Bill, yeah, I think that might be a good route to take, is to send this, to say that, you know, during our listening sessions with the public, one of the issues was traffic, and these issues were brought up. We assume that when and if a new plan is presented, that someone's gonna ask, well, what happened? Was this ever addressed? And we can say that these concerns here that Theo outlined were forwarded on to the new subcommittee, and they took action on it or not. I think it's gonna be difficult for us to do this and then follow up as a board. You know, one of us could probably do it, but as a whole board, unless we're all there, it's difficult. It's always difficult to have the board act on something like this as a whole.
Okay. So I will say we anticipate that when a new plan is developed, these issues will be addressed, should be addressed, should be taken into consideration.
Yeah, should be taken in consideration as concerns already made by the public.
All right. All right. All right, I got a little wordsmithing to do to flesh this out. So I cited 4 points. A lot of commuter pass-through traffic, increased street parking is number 2, the absence of parking enforcement. And then we did get a lot of questions, comments, challenge around the 1.5 cars per parking per unit, the 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit. That always struck me as odd, because it seemed like that was, I think, a straightforward decision by traffic advisory, not really in any contention or dispute, except people chose to think it was not realistic. And we know that the citizens petition presented suggested something to the effect of, if and when possible, two parking spaces per dwelling unit of 3 bedrooms or more. And there was a lot of wiggle room. So I don't know to what extent we want to raise the 1.5. I think, there's a lot of good policy around 1.0 parking spaces per dwelling unit. But it sounds like we'd, not a hill to die on.
Well, obviously, this is gonna be one of the issues that the town council subcommittee addresses, is what their parking ratio is. So this is basically answering a question that doesn't need to be asked at this point, because that original article failed at town meeting. So perhaps not even having this item number 4 in there, because we don't know where they're gonna go with this. They could go with 1, they could go with 2, 1.5, who knows? But that's something they're gonna have to address when they propose something.
Okay. All right. All right.
I mean, when we wrote our proposed article, we knew why we picked this, because it was mimicking what was basically already there. Obviously, when they move forward, they're gonna go on their own route, so.
Yeah. Mhm. All right. Do we want to, this sentence, separately, town residents continued to ask for a broader townwide traffic study? Sounds
You
like
can-
I'll take that out.
You can leave that in there. Obviously, it's gonna be a funds issue. Someone's gotta pay for that. The town has, I don't know if the town has money to do an overall comprehensive traffic study. That'd be pretty expensive, and usually that's done when a specific project is
Sure.
potentially gonna increase traffic, so.
All right. I'm going to take it out, unless you. Okay. So, all right, so I'm going to address it to the Town Council 40A subcommittee, with a CC to the folks previously mentioned, and including Samantha. I'm going to send it from the planning board, based on, and I'll make reference to our discussion tonight. And I'll finish wordsmithing this, and put it on letterhead, and then I'll send it around.
I think that's a good direction for this.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. All right.
All right, thank you, Theo.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And thanks for putting effort into this. It does take a lot to put these together, and keep working.
Yeah.
Wordsmith them, and not perfect them, but get them along to where we're satisfied with them. So
Yeah. I mean, and again, we spent a lot of time talking about this, and we got a lot of feedback, and one of the criticisms was we weren't listening to people, and we know that is not the case, and I want to be able to follow up wherever we can, to be continue to contribute to this successful process.
all right, thanks. All right, item 8, items not anticipated. Does anyone have any comments, questions, anything they want to bring up at this point?
Yeah, Matt, just one quick, it was about the meeting on Thursday. As a board, should we have a representative there from the planning board? Is this something that either 2 of you, or if Jim was planning to attend?
I don't know if Jim was
Hmm.
planning to attend. I don't know if
Yeah,
they want the planning board, because again, it's gonna come, it will come through us at some point. So, I think personally, I think they need a little room to discuss things and work things out and see what the direction is. Maybe once they formalize something, then we can, have some representation there.
right. My concern is they are reviewing a timeline. And
The time, no, they're reviewing the plan for when the dates are
Mhm.
for the upcoming meetings. So if you're going to be holding meetings every Wednesday or every Thursday or whatever
Oh,
that is,
okay.
that's what they're discussing. There's a loose timeline that Aaron and I have put together, but we have nothing as of right now. Obviously, there can be things that are not presented by staff, but
Right.
that is what that item refers to.
Okay, my mistake. I misunderstood. I was,
Primarily, yeah. Aaron and I
Yeah.
have put together a loose timeline, but we don't know anything about what direction they want to go in, public meetings. So at this point, I mean, obviously, feel free to attend. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just trying to clarify what that item is. As for we're looking for direction on moving forward. Do they want surveys, public meetings, information sessions? Like, what is the gist of what they're looking for from us so that we can put together a more formal timeline, at which point, yeah, then that may be the more appropriate time if that's something that you're trying to get some information on. But again, totally feel free. I'm not trying to deter you, just trying to clarify.
I would, Samantha, like it resonates with me, Matt, that, we want to give them some space to get their footing and to plan ahead. I would like, Samantha, you to communicate that the planning board is a resource to assist them. And yeah, so, yeah.
Sure, I'm happy to pass that along.
thanks. I appreciate you clarifying what timeline meant.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're right at this point as well. The discussion has been trying to hit the November fall meeting, which is a very tight timeline. We want to confirm that that's still what their goal is. We need to give the state time. I mean, there's a lot of logistical kind of little odds and ends that we have to discuss.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is, how frequently are we going to be meeting? What is the standing date? Is it weekly? Is it every other week?
Mhm.
Because it took me like a week, I think, to even coordinate this meeting with everybody. And I don't want to be doing that every single time. So hopefully we'll have some sort of cadence that will allow the public to be participating more frequently and openly.
That makes sense.
Can I throw one thing there? Like, if and when we're going to need to have some public hearings to review this, or at least one, right? Since I mean, I don't know, maybe, I don't know.
No,
I mean,
it's required. It's
Yeah.
a zoning issue, so it's gonna
Yeah.
have to have a recommendation from the planning board, which includes at least one public hearing.
So I think, right, part of that timeline should include that, and, should it not fall within our every 2 week cadence, then, then they can say, oh, we're going to need another meeting from the planning board, and, and obviously
Yeah.
we would.
And are you open to having a special hearing for should that be required, or should that be necessary based on whatever timeline cadence situation arises?
Mhm.
That you would be open to holding a special meeting for review of the 3A
Of course, I would be.
project? Okay,
Yeah, because there's gonna be advertising deadlines,
sure.
I mean, we'll work with whomever to get this moved along.
Me.
And I feel like we
Right,
have-
I will be the middleman for.
I feel like we
most.
have September 24th, October 8th. I feel like we have some time in between there with a few months for the subcommittee to figure out before we have hearings. So it's,
Yeah.
we've done this before. I think we've been in tighter crunches as far as getting public meetings, and Matt can attest to this, but we like to have two because we know not everybody can make one. So it is good to have two, just to be fair. Yeah.
Right, and we know that as long as everything gets communicated and it gets on the warrant within their deadline, we can spill over with meetings closer to the
Right.
deadline, right?
Yeah, this is what I thought the discussion was going to be for the meeting. It's like working backwards from not just the state deadline at the end of the year, but also working back from the possible fall town meeting date and all the logistics. But if you and Erin are on that, I am very confident that it will be worked out properly with, to Matt's point, making sure advertisement and notification is all in there properly.
Yeah, we have it, like I said, we have a tentative timeline that we put together when I think Erin took a month break. As I was trying to start to reach out and coordinate on some other components of it, but she took some time before we dug back into sitting down and trying to come up with like, what is this even realistic to be able to get all this stuff in? And it really, like I said, it depends on what town council is, or the subcommittee is looking for as part of the process. The good news in that we've been through it once, we do have a lot of feedback from the public. We do have some general direction, I think. So it's not completely reinventing the wheel and having to start from scratch all over again. It's trying to piece something together that both meets the needs of 3A and the needs / wants of Wakefield. So yeah, again, feel free to come, feel free to even email. I'm happy to pass along any information, or letters, emails, whatever of support that you want. But yeah, right now, and I'm also happy to report back at the next meeting if you want an update on where everything is and what the kind of a status update, state of the 3A, I guess you call it, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that as well. You just let me know, and we can add that to the agenda at maybe towards the end or something.
Right, thanks, I appreciate that. Do you know if the meeting will be recorded? The subcommittee meetings usually are not.
I believe that these will be.
Okay.
Because everything 3A related was posted before, or we tried to post every single thing. I don't know like for certain that everything was, but we tried to. And so that's the plan this time as well, is to have everything posted and shared, so that it's both transparent and allows people to participate. If they can't be there in person, they can always review something and give us some commentary back through email or meeting with me or letters or whatever format they want to follow up in.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else have any items not anticipated?
I'd like to wave the flag for the Joint Center on Housing Studies and their analyses around housing trends, demographics, costs, et cetera. And so they're a good resource, and they have a number of sort of reports and blogs and things like that I think really do put good information and context around housing costs, housing burdens, why housing is so expensive across the country, and I think also helps think about a lot of the discussions we had with folks around 3A, and you know, and all for the good. So just I can send more links and more links.
Sure.
So
Pass along anything and everything
yeah.
you'd like to.
Yeah, and I love attaching them to the bottom of the agenda, just as sort of a you know, another way of encouraging people to look at
Oh,
that.
absolutely. And you can include more detailed information in your agenda. The more details, actually, the better it can be for public engagement. This was talked about in one of the, I think the webinars I sat in for MHP and something else I saw online, but there's nothing wrong with adding more information. So you can always email those to me if you want me to have them, or Susan both, whatever, so that the public can always go back to and be able to have a good understanding of what it is that may have been discussed by looking at prior agendas, if for some reason you want to.
Okay, thank you. Will do.
All right.
Sorry, I do have one more
Yep.
thing, only
Okay.
because the email came out, and after listening to Theo speak so eloquently about housing, I know there was a ask for nominations specifically from our board, as well as other board, for the housing production plan. So nominations for the housing production plan steering committee is now open. I believe you
Yeah.
probably received that email as well.
So yeah, so that went out a little preemptively.
Oh, no.
It's supposed to go out in like a week or so. That was my fault. I misunderstood the date on when that's going out. But yes, it's fine to start discussions on that and figure out who you would like to be or who you would like to offer up, one or two, whatever. I think there's just one position from the planning board. So, you know, you don't need to fight over it. But if more than one person wants to, I'm sure you could put both names forward and let town council end up choosing whoever would be participating. Just as an FYI, the housing production plan should be wrapping up in February or March of 25. So it's only about 6 months or so. It won't be a very long commitment compared to planning board, which is a much longer appointment
5 years.
type voting. Yeah.
Interesting. I know I thought of Paul Donaco as well, who was a former planning board town council, and I think he probably worked on the past housing production plan and master plan. So that would be an interesting person too. He's retired now. So, hey. Yeah, so our board, so August 2nd is the deadline for that, not for nominations?
The dates in there are correct. Yes.
Okay, good to know. So we can discuss this at our next meeting as well.
Yeah, we'll have to
Okay.
do that. I am on the housing trust and obviously on the planning board, so I don't know.
Yeah.
If you want me on redundant on that, but we can see.
I'm like nominating Theo after his just talk about all the housing stuff. All right, we can discuss at our next meeting. Hopefully we'll have a full
Yes,
group.
please.
Yeah.
So it's anticipated that we're gonna have a meeting on the 23rd, but we have no, obviously it's gonna depend on what items we have to discuss, so Jim will be making that decision probably in a week or so to come. So,
Okay.
Yeah. And you may want to have one, or at least plan on having the discussion for who you want to put forward for the housing production plan steering committee
okay,
at that next one. So even if that's all you discuss and approving the minutes or something like that, it may just keep it marked on your calendar, I think would be a beneficial thing to do.
okay. We need to get down to having some record time meetings again. 5-10 minute meetings are the best sometimes, so especially in the summer when it's hot. So, all right. If no one else has anything on item number 8, item number 9, adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
seconded by Bill. Roll call votes. Bill Spalding,
Yes.
Theo Noel,
Yes.
myself, Matthew Lowry, yes. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Susan, and we may most likely see you in 2 weeks.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Have a
Thank